Command staff and dignitaries, please be seated. Good evening, everybody. Let's try it again. Good evening, everybody. Good evening. I like it. Welcome to the Police Academy and the Milwaukee Police Department's 2015 Fall Merit Award ceremony with music provided by the Milwaukee Police Band, the nation's oldest and proudest police band, led by band director Lieutenant Karen Dubas. Karen, raise your hand back there, who recently retired after 37 years of faithful service. My name is Terrence Gordon. I'm a deputy inspector, and I'm the academy director and the proud commanding officer of the finest training staff in the state of Wisconsin. Let's give them a round of applause. Friends, family, thank you for being here to support your loved ones. Award recipients, also, thank you for being here. You exemplify what it means to be a Milwaukee police officer. Before we begin the ceremony, please allow me to introduce our dignitaries and master and mistress of ceremonies for tonight's event. Ladies and gentlemen, Chief Edward Flynn, Mayor Tom Barrett, Executive Director of the Fire and Police Commission, Mary Nell Regan. We have a recruit class in-house. Our class sponsor is Chief Judge Maxine White, Assistant Chief James Harpole, Assistant Chief Kurt Leibold, Inspector Carrie Ann Yerkes, and our MCs for tonight from TMJ4, Vince Petrano, and Susan Kim. And ladies and gentlemen, the men and women who also make this department work, the command staff and their representatives of the Milwaukee Police Department. Please stand. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the presentation of the colors by the Milwaukee Police Honor Guard. The Honor Guard is commanded by Captain Leslie Teeley. Tonight's color guard, however, is under the direction of Lieutenant Greg Duran. Command staff, uncover. Award recipients, uncover. Please be seated. Thank you again to our color guard and again to the Milwaukee Police Band. Twice a year we get together to honor members of our department for their heroism, bravery, compassion, their hard work, and their dedication. And each ceremony is a new chapter in our department's history in which we get to recognize the work of police officers and community members who exemplify our core values and our guiding principles. In what some people call a challenging time for our profession, the men and women of this department continue to make us proud. You don't do what you do for these medals. You don't do what you do for extra pay or even recognition. And many of the selfless acts that you do on a regular basis go unrecognized. So on behalf of the Police Academy staff, the chief and the department, please allow me to say congratulations on your awards and for the service that you and your colleagues perform for our community. We are honored tonight to have our first speaker who makes it a point to attend every Academy graduation and every Merit Award ceremony. The one time that I was here that he couldn't make it, he sent a video of himself because he was out of town. Please allow me to bring to the stage the mayor of the city of Milwaukee, Tom Barrett.
Thank you, Inspector. Good evening. It is great to see all of you here tonight. To the men and women who represent the Milwaukee Police Department, thank you for your courage, for your work, for your professionalism. For the citizens who are here tonight, I want to thank you for stepping forward in a situation where most citizens probably would turn their back and walk away. To the families and the friends of those being honored tonight, I want to thank you for supporting the men and women who work for the Milwaukee Police Department and the citizens who are here tonight. And to the chief and the command staff, I want to thank you for your leadership as well. This is an exciting night. If you haven't been here for this before, it's a fun evening. It's a celebration. It's a celebration of the great things that the Milwaukee Police Department does. And it's important for us as an organization. It's important for us as a city. It's important for us as a people to celebrate our successes. We don't have to go far to see what our failures are. We can look in the media, we can have people who talk to us and are critical of us, but sometimes I don't think we as a people, I don't think the police department often enough talks about the great things that it does. And that's what we're going to do tonight. We're going to talk about the great men and women who work for the Milwaukee Police Department. And that is a very good thing. Why is it important? It's important because at a time in our country when police-community relations are questioned, I think it is important for our residents and our citizens to see that the vast, vast, vast majority of people who work for our police department are there because they're doing the right thing. And what you're going to hear tonight are going to be little vignettes. They're going to be like little TV stories. So this is the part of policing that is like a television show, where you're going to see their heroism, you're going to see their humanity, you're going to see their professionalism, and you're going to see how much they care about the people who live in this community. I think it's a night of celebration. And it's a night where oftentimes we don't see what's going on because it's not in the box score. And I love sports, and I love talking about what's in the box score, the points, the assists, the rebounds. What we're going to see tonight are activities that oftentimes don't show up in the box score. But they're just important because, again, they underscore the professionalism, the training, and most importantly, the valor of the people who work for this department and those citizens who step forward. So sit back, enjoy yourselves. I'm sorry we don't have popcorn, but it's going to be a fun night, so enjoy all the great things you hear this evening. Thank you very much for being here.
We don't have popcorn, but we do have cookies. Our next speaker is the man who steers the ship, our commander, the commander of the entire police department, Chief Edward Flynn.
Well, thank you and good evening. It's a privilege to be here twice a year, to have an opportunity to share with all of you the work of your loved ones. Everybody that's here in the audience has a connection to this police department. There's somebody in it you love and care about, someone perhaps you've raised. And one thing we know, some of the most important people in the growing of a police officer are their families. This is a difficult job under the best of circumstances. Think about it. Young folks who are raised their entire life, you're probably telling your children these messages right now. Don't stare, mind your own business, and don't ask embarrassing questions. And yet, what do we ask our police officers to do? Unlearn the lessons of a lifetime. We ask them to not mind their own business. We certainly expect them to stare from time to time, and we absolutely need them to ask embarrassing questions. Now, this is a hard enough job under the best of circumstances. We police a society that is not only the most heavily armed society on earth, but also one that's inherently suspicious of authority, that indeed was founded on suspicion of authority. And in that context, trying to police people from many different backgrounds with many different expectations of the police department, we put an enormous burden on policing's practitioners. But even more so, there's something else. As the mayor and as Inspector Gordon have both alluded to, these are difficult times for our profession. It has become fashionable once again in America to denigrate the police. It has become fashionable to highlight the excesses of some individual practitioners and use those excesses to indict an entire profession. It's pernicious what's occurring right now because it's undermining the crucial relationship between the guardians and those who must be guarded, between the protector of neighborhoods and the neighborhoods that most need protection. Notwithstanding those realities, however, we have the men and women before us today and members of the community who have stepped forward on their own, who have placed their lives at risk in order to protect others. Frequently, this life-risking behavior is in the context of active combat and a clear physical threat. Often, this life-risking behavior is on the behalf of restraint, giving someone else the opportunity to do injury, so that an officer might have time to prevent something from becoming worse. We do not ask that of any other profession charged with protecting us. Now, this time of year, we always take time out to praise and remember our military, as well we should. But they are not under any 1/10 of the scrutiny our officers are. They are not second-guessed 1/10 as much as our officers are. And their deployments are finite. The men and women before you today have infinite deployments. And it's just as wearying over time. Indeed, the physical hazards of this occupation are well documented. But it's the emotional hazards that sometimes, over time, take the greatest toll. And it is those contexts that our bonds of affection among ourselves and our connections to our broader community are most important. Now, there are times when you're a senior leader, you're expected to inspire the people that work for you. Well, tonight is a night where I get to be inspired. Because every time I get an opportunity to spend time with the men and women of this police department, I leave inspired. In an age of cynicism, idealism still lives. And it lives right here among our midst, among the men and women before you today who care about the community and who do not accept the label of hero. You'll never hear one of them ever regard themselves as a hero. You will ask them why they did it, and they'll say, I was just doing my job. And in a job in which heroism is the expected norm, where a cultural value is courage, we have to nod and be grateful for that attitude. This is not, as the inspector said, about the medals. What it is about is drawing attention to the conduct that ennobles us all, that ennobles the families that raise them, that ennobles the work they do, and that allows us to say, as both senior leaders, members of the community, and members of extended family, thank you. Thank you for caring enough about your city to serve it. We're grateful, we're respectful, and as the mayor said, eager to hear more about it. Inspector?
Thank you, Chief. You'll all recognize our MCs for tonight's ceremony. Susan Kim is celebrating 21 years and counting with today's TMJ4. She's worked this. I really hope the internet was correct. She's worked the assignment desk on the weekends and as a reporter during the week. Her hard work paid off, and she was moved to full-time reporting and then anchoring shortly after she started in Milwaukee. Susan has covered many stories and has been nominated for an Emmy Award for her coverage of the Azana Spa incident in 2012. She's currently an anchor of Live at Daybreak, which has been recognized as the best morning newscast several times by the Wisconsin Broadcasters Association. Susan believes in making her community a better place. She volunteers a great deal of her own time helping many organizations. One of her biggest passions is today's TMJ4 Community Baby Shower, which she helped start in 2001. Since its inception, the Community Baby Shower has collected tens of thousands of items and helped countless babies in our area. Susan is a mother of 3 and lives in the Milwaukee area with her children and husband. Susan's partner, Vince Vitrano, has been in media since 1994, crossing various platforms, working primarily in television, but also in radio, new media, and print, starting in Green Bay with a job writing about, what else? The Green Bay Packers. Vince currently anchors the morning news on TMJ4 with Susan and also co-anchors the noon newscast, morning news on 94.5 FM, and occasionally appearances on AM radio as well. Vince and Susan were pioneers in the Milwaukee market, incorporating social media into their work to build large followings, create interactive experiences for viewers, and share online products with them. He also remains active in our community and believes it's important for people in the media to be involved. Vince is married with 3 children, loves the Badgers and Packers, and is crazy about his lawn. That's what he said. He also plays golf, but wishes he didn't. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our host and hostess for tonight's ceremony, Susan Kim and Vince Vitrano. Mayor and Chief, if you would.
Thanks so much. You're so funny.
Have fun.
Okay, we will. Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Deputy Inspector Gordon, for that nice introduction. And thank you to the Milwaukee Police Department for including us in this evening of inspiration to recognize so much of the great work that is done in this community. I'm Susan Kim, and this is Vince Vitrano. We're honored to be here tonight. We want to thank the chief, and we also want to make a note of the media producer for the Milwaukee Police Department. His name is Jeff Gallagher. He's over there in the corner. Jeff, wave your hand. Nice applause. Thank you. He used to be a producer for our morning show, and he says he's so happy right now that he's not with us. But he has an affectionate nickname for Vince and I, and he calls us the Dog and Pony, or the Dog and Pony Show, which is what you're subjected to this evening.
It's a lot more funny if you're the pony. But it does, just another word of welcome, it does occur to me that so many of you in law enforcement, you appreciate the value of a good partner, and especially if you're the dog and not the pony. So there are many days when I say to myself, I'm glad she was here. So we are very honored on behalf of today's TMJ4 to represent our station, and so grateful for the invitation to be here with you tonight. And it also occurs to us, so very often when you have media and law enforcement in the same room, something real bad has happened. And so the word celebration has been used a number of times tonight, and we are proud to be able to come here and celebrate with you tonight. It's an honor for us, so thank you very much for having us. We'll jump right in with the awards now tonight. For District 1, led by Captain Eric Moore and represented tonight by Lieutenant Greg Duran, Officers James Napinski, Frederick C. Schrader, and Pernell V. Reynolds are receiving the Life Saving Award. On April 4th, 2015, Officers Napinski and Schrader were on patrol in the 2900 block of North Oakland Avenue when a man flagged them down because his mother was unresponsive inside her car. The officers removed the woman and began compressions on her. Officer Reynolds saw the incident, stepped in to help his fellow officers. The Milwaukee Fire Department arrived and continued life-saving measures until the woman's pulse was restored. The woman was taken to a local hospital and doctors confirmed treatment given by the 3 officers was vital in helping that woman. The quick response, heroic actions, and determination displayed by all the officers saved that woman's life. For District 2, led by Captain Alfonso Morales, presented tonight by Lieutenant Greg Henry.
Oh.
Now to District 2, led by Captain Alfonso Morales, presented tonight by Lieutenant Craig Henry. The Medal of Valor Rescue Award presented to Sergeant Rebecca L. Carpenter and Officers Jason G. Stahowiak and James J. Spinato.
In the early morning hours of February 12, 2015, Sergeant Carpenter and Officers Stahowiak and Spinato saw smoke billowing from a house in the 1700 block of South 15th Place. The group pounded on the door to wake up the residents and then entered the house to lead the frightened family to safety. The sergeant and officers displayed exceptional competence in locating the house fire before the occupants were even aware of it. They also embodied the core value of courage when they went into a burning building to make sure everyone got out safely. So we're going to ask Officer Stahowiak to stay on the stage as the Life-Saving Award is presented to him and Officer Ronald W. Zarnik. On July 7th, 2015, Officers Stahowiak and Zarnik responded to an unconscious and unresponsive woman in the 500 block of West Maple Street. The officers rendered first aid until Milwaukee Fire Department personnel arrived at the scene. A few minutes later, the woman woke up and ran to the bridge that spans over the freeway. She jumped the fence and tried to jump into traffic. Officer Stahowiak grabbed the woman and pulled her towards the fence. Officer Stahowiak and a firefighter struggled to hold the woman upright. Officer Zarnik climbed the fence to gain control of the woman and hoisted her into the arms of another firefighter. The woman was transported to the hospital for treatment and further mental health evaluation. The officers' quick thinking, heroic actions, and determination prevented the woman from harming herself.
The Life-Saving Award is presented to Officer Adam J. Rush. On August 19, 2015, Officer Rush and his partner responded to the 800 block of West Arthur Avenue, where a man had collapsed. Officer Rush saw the man had shallow breaths, his eyes were rolled back, and he was unresponsive. Officer Rush determined the man was experiencing a heroin overdose, so he ran to his squad and retrieved his opiate overdose kit and administered a dose of Narcan. The man's heart rate increased, his breathing became clearer. The Milwaukee Fire Department arrived on scene and continued life-saving measures. The man was then transported to the hospital for further treatment. Officer Rush's quick thinking, heroic actions, and determination prevented loss of life.
The Life-Saving Award is presented to Officer Juan A. Lopez. On June 13, 2015, a runner collapsed at the finish line of the Summerfest Rock and Soul Half Marathon. The runner was unconscious, pulseless, and not breathing. Officer Lopez immediately began CPR and chest compressions while medical volunteers lifted the victim's legs to increase the blood flow to his heart. The Milwaukee Fire Department arrived, took over medical treatment, and was able to restore a pulse to the runner. Officer Lopez remained by the side of the man during his transport to the hospital for further medical treatment. Officer Lopez's quick efforts prevented the loss of life at the scene. The Medal of Valor Rescue Award is presented to Officer Michael D. Kuykendall. The Life Saving Award is presented to Officers Jay Lindstrom and Julian G. Nunez. And the Valorous Conduct Citizen Award is presented to Ms. Melissa Y. Freitas and Mr. Aaron K. Lahia.
On June 27, 2015, Ms. Freitas and Mr. Lahia heard a commotion coming from the Kosciuszko Park Lagoon. They saw two men drowning in the lagoon and immediately jumped into the water to save them. Officers Kuykendall, Lindstrom, and Nunez quickly responded to this location, and upon their arrival, one of the men was out of the water and being attended to by citizens. The officers were informed that another man was still in the water. So along with Mr. Lahia, they ran into the murky water. In spite of the poor visibility, they were able to locate the second man in approximately 8 feet of water. They pulled the man out of the water onto the grass, where they immediately began CPR. That man was transported to the hospital for further medical treatment. The teamwork and cooperation of the officers and citizens embodies MPD's mission. The Life Saving Award is presented to Officers Patrick C. Elm and Matthew N. Nagalski. On October 18, 2014, Officers Elm and Nagalski responded to a battery, 700 block of South 6th Street. They found a man holding a knife in a stairwell who had just stabbed a victim. The victim was safely removed from the scene and was given medical attention. The armed man, covered in blood and yelling at the officers to kill him. The officers attempted to de-escalate the situation by engaging in dialogue as the man threatened officers with the knife. The man finally threw his knife onto the floor and moved toward the officers. Officers Elm and Nagalski took him into custody, found another knife in his pocket. Officers later learned the man had a long history of mental illness and was recently released from treatment. Officers Elm and Nagalski's calm demeanor and de-escalation tactics brought a peaceful end to a highly charged situation. The Excellence in Police Service Award presented tonight to Officer Jesus Gloria. As a community liaison officer, Officer Gloria has been instrumental in bridging the gap between MPD and the community for nearly 10 years. He has excelled at empowering citizens to take pride in their neighborhoods. Officer Gloria has worked hand in hand with the Block Watch Council to create approximately 300 Block Watch groups. Additionally, he has played an integral role in the creation and implementation of a graffiti removal program. For this initiative, MPD partnered with the Department of Corrections and community volunteers to clean graffiti in Southside neighborhoods.
But there's more. Officer Gloria has partnered with numerous groups to talk about the community safety and crime prevention. The Boys and Girls Club and local schools routinely request Officer Gloria for presentations due to his strong rapport with young people. Officer Gloria, you have to stay up and stand so everybody can look at you. Don't be sitting down yet. Due to his strong rapport with young people, Officer Gloria has developed partnerships throughout the community which have helped to create and maintain safe neighborhoods. He has exceeded expectations in every project and partnership and exemplified the values and the mission of Milwaukee Police. Now you can sit. The Meritorious Service Award is presented to Sergeant Kieran J. Sawyer and Officers Douglas J. Lemke, Vance A. Scollin, and Gerald L. Schmidt. On July 28, 2015, Sergeant Sawyer and Officers Lemke, Schmidt, and Scollin were completing a field interview while on bicycle patrol in the area of South 20th Street and West Greenfield Avenue. They heard a loud gunshot and saw two suspects fleeing the area and ordered them to stop. One ran, the other surrendered to police. Officer Scollin detained the first suspect. Sergeant Sawyer initiated a foot pursuit, while Officer Lemke, on his bicycle, pursued the second fleeing suspect. Officer Schmidt, who was also on his bicycle, joined the chase and saw the suspect in a nearby alley. The officers ordered the suspect to drop his gun, but the man continued to run. The officers eventually caught up to the suspect and arrested him. Both suspects confessed to their involvement in an attempted armed robbery and shooting. As a result of their quick actions and persistence, officers provided justice for the victim's family and our Milwaukee community. For District 3, led by Captain Jason Smith, Officer Joshua R. Nemeth is receiving the Medal of Valor Combat Award. On July 14, 2012, Officer Nemeth and his partner were flagged down by a citizen in the 2600 block of North 49th Street. The citizen told officers that a subject armed with a handgun was on the porch of a nearby house. The officers approached two men who were at that location and ordered them multiple times to the ground. The suspect, armed with a pistol, refused officers' commands and raised the handgun and pointed it directly at officers. Fearing for the lives of nearby citizens, his partner and himself, Officer Nemeth discharged his firearm and stopped the imminent threat. Officer Nemeth confronted a dangerous suspect with the safety of the community in mind and demonstrated extraordinary courage to stop that threat.
Next up, Officer David P. Wilhelm is receiving the Life Saving Award. On May 19, 2015, Officer Wilhelm and his partner responded to a man in crisis on the 35th Street Viaduct. Officer Wilhelm approached the man who was poised to jump from the bridge and engaged him in conversation. Officer Wilhelm learned the man felt helpless and depressed, so he continued that dialogue in an attempt to get him to climb over the railing and to safety. Officer Wilhelm, who has crisis intervention training, was able to successfully persuade him to climb off the railing and sit down on the curb. That man was taken to the hospital for further medical treatment. The man stated later it was Officer Wilhelm's ability to redirect him, to listen, that made him reconsider his actions. For District 4, led by Captain Victor Beecher, the Life Saving Award is presented to Officer Bradley M. Tremblay. On April 10, 2015, Officer Tremblay, responding to a fire in the 5200 block of North Teutonia Avenue, encountered 4 residents standing outside of a house engulfed in flames. The residents stated that everyone except their dogs were out of the building. Officer Tremblay then saw one of the residents re-enter the home and quickly ran after him. Because the smoke was so heavy, Officer Tremblay had to search on his hands and knees, calling out to the man until he responded. The officer followed the sound of the man, located him in a rear area of the house, and led him back to the front door. Officer Tremblay and the resident escaped the fire safely without suffering major injury. Officer Tremblay's quick thinking, heroic actions, and determination helped ensure the safety of all the residents.
The Life Saving Award tonight is presented to Officers Craig M. Nowatka and Matthew J. Zaworski. On March 21, 2015, the officers conducted a traffic stop of a vehicle for an equipment violation. As Officer Nowatka approached the vehicle, he saw the driver intentionally stabbing himself with a knife. Officer Nowatka opened the driver's door and ordered the man to drop the knife. The man stopped stabbing himself, and Officer Zaworski took control of the knife. The officers worked together to keep the driver from going into shock and applied direct pressure to his wounds, preventing the loss of blood. The driver remained conscious, and the Milwaukee Fire Department arrived to take over the medical treatment. The officers' heroic actions that day saved that man's life. For District 5, led by Captain Thomas Stigler, tonight represented by Lieutenant Jeffrey Norman. Officer Jamie S. Rosado is receiving the Medal of Valor Combat Award, and Officer Christopher S. Ottaway is receiving the Meritorious Service Award.
On April 24th, 2015, officers Rosado and Ottaway responded to a shots fired call 2600 block of West Nash Street. Upon arrival, they found two suspicious subjects in the area. One of the subjects placed an item underneath some bushes. Fearing the object may be a gun, Officer Rosado attempted to conduct a field interview. The second subject reached underneath the bush, retrieved a handgun, and ran. The man then turned and pointed the gun. Officer Rosado fired one shot and struck the suspect. Officer Ottaway pursued the suspect and apprehended him. Officers subsequently took both suspects into custody and recovered the firearm involved. Officers Rosado and Ottaway's quick thinking prevented the situation from escalating further. Officer Michael P. Walker is receiving the Medal of Valor Combat Award, and Officer Corey J. Lopez receiving the Meritorious Service Award. On March 9th, 2015, Officers Walker and Lopez responded to an armed robbery in progress at a business, 1300 block East Locust Street. The officers found a suspect armed with a pistol behind the register. Officer Walker ordered the suspect to drop the firearm, but the suspect turned and aimed his gun at the officers. Fearing for the safety of everyone inside the store, Officer Walker shot his firearm at the suspect. The suspect then aimed the gun at his chest, shot himself, and collapsed. When the officers approached to provide medical assistance, the suspect shot himself again. The officers performed CPR on the suspect until paramedics arrived.
Employees stated the suspect threatened to shoot people if they did not open the cash registers. Witnesses also related that Officer Walker was heroic and did not hesitate to enter into an armed confrontation to protect the people held captive. Officer Walker and Lopez's courage, selflessness, and quick actions prevented innocent citizens from getting hurt that day. Now you can sit. Officer Anthony J. Malone is receiving the Medal of Valor Combat Award, and Detective Craig J. Tim is receiving the Meritorious Service Award. On March 9th, 2015, Officer Malone and Detective Tim saw two suspects conduct what they believed to be a drug transaction in the 1700 block of West Center Street. As Officer Malone got out of his squad to conduct a field interview, the suspect turned and pulled a pistol from his waistband. The suspect shot at Officer Malone as he ran from police. Detective Tim provided backup support. Officer Malone chased the suspect on foot into a nearby yard, where the suspect again tried to shoot Officer Malone. Fearing for his safety and the safety of the residents in that neighborhood, Officer Malone returned fire and struck the suspect twice. Determined to get away, the suspect fought with Officer Malone and Detective Tim, but was ultimately placed under arrest and treated for his wounds. Officers recovered a variety of drugs from the suspect. Officer Malone and Detective Tim demonstrated courage under fire as they pursued and captured a homicidal felon.
Officer Stephen A. Mankey is receiving the Medal of Valor Rescue Award. On February 21st, 2015, Milwaukee firefighters responded to the 3300 block of North 10th Street and soon learned a suspect was holding his girlfriend hostage. Officer Mankey and the other officers forced entry into the home and found a woman inside who told them nothing was wrong. Suspicious the woman was being coerced, officers began to call out for the suspect to come forward as they searched the house. The suspect abruptly opened the door of a closet where he was hiding and pointed what Officer Mankey believed to be a military-style rifle at officers in the room. Officer Mankey, realizing the life of his partner was in imminent danger, discharged his firearm and struck the suspect. The suspect was transported for medical treatment, taken into custody. A subsequent investigation revealed the suspect was holding an exact replica of a firearm, Officer Mankey's keen observation skills, quick action, and concern for his fellow officers stopped the imminent threat posed by that suspect. Officers Andrew T. Forte and Nicholas M. Kropp are receiving the Life Saving Award. On July 12, 2015, Officers Forte and Kropp responded to a shooting in the 3000 block of North 25th Street. The officers found a victim shot twice in the leg and bleeding profusely. Without hesitation, Officer Forte put on rubber gloves and applied direct pressure to the wound. Officer Kropp immediately retrieved a tourniquet from the squad, and both officers applied the tourniquet to the victim's leg, which stopped the bleeding. The Milwaukee Fire Department arrived and continued medical treatment. Medical personnel stated Officers Forte and Kropp's quick actions saved that victim's life. Officer Ismar Kolenowicz is receiving the Life Saving Award. On July 11, 2015, Officer Kolenowicz responded to a shooting in the 2600 block of West Port Sunlight Way. Upon arrival, Officer Kolenowicz saw a Milwaukee Fire Department captain alone at the scene with a wounded man. Without hesitation, Officer Kolenowicz and the MFD captain began CPR and took turns with chest compressions. The victim regained consciousness and began to breathe again on his own. Milwaukee Fire Department personnel arrived and provided additional medical treatment to the victim. Officer Kolenowicz's quick thinking, heroic actions, and determination saved that man's life.
Officers Gregory M. Kuspa, Jonathan C. Newport, Eric A. Northwood, and Janelle M. Vitlachel are receiving the Life Saving Award. On April 16, 2015, while conducting a traffic stop, Officer Vitlachel saw smoke coming from a home and immediately alerted District 5 squads of that fire. Officer Newport notified dispatch and requested the Milwaukee Fire Department to the scene. The officers ran past the fire on the porch and into the residence. Officer Kuspa rescued a 3-year-old toddler from the house, while Officer Vitlachel evacuated the mother, father, and a 5-year-old child. After the evacuation, all of the officers used fire extinguishers and buckets of water to put out that blaze. The officers' heroic actions helped save the lives of an entire family. Officers Gary S. Sharoni, Kurt S. Saltschwaddle, Michael P. Walker, and forensic investigator Jeffrey C. Muhammad are receiving the Meritorious Service Award. On November 9, 2014, Officers Sharoni, Saltschwaddle, and Walker responded to an armed robbery call in the 3000 block of North Bremen Street. 2 women were robbed of their purses at knife point by a male suspect. After the robbery, the man fled in a vehicle driven by an accomplice. The 3 officers obtained a video of the incident from a neighbor, and forensic investigator Muhammad worked diligently to process the license plate of the suspect's vehicle. The victim later informed the officers that their credit cards were being used at a restaurant in the 1200 block of West North Avenue. The officers immediately drove to that restaurant, found the suspect's vehicle, performed a traffic stop, and arrested the suspects. Due to the efforts of all 3 officers and the forensic investigator, the suspects were held accountable for their actions.
For District 6, led by Captain Diana Rowe, the Medical of Valor Rescue Award is presented tonight to Officer Joshua P. Duman, and the Meritorious Service Award presented to Officers Mark A. Flessert, Jr. and Matthew C. Wagner. On March 5, 2015, Officers Duman, Flessert, and Wagner responded to a subject with a weapon complaint in the 400 block of East Plainfield Avenue. The officers were informed a husband was threatening his estranged wife with a knife and violating a restraining order. They forced entry into the home and found the terrified wife seated on her husband's lap, pleading for help as he held a knife to her neck. He refused to obey police commands to drop the knife and release the woman. With no other options, Officer Duman ended the incident by firing one precise round. As a result of Officer Duman's courage, the victim only sustained minor abrasions to her neck. Officer Duman's quick thinking and heroic actions prevented the situation from escalating further.
The Life-Saving Award is presented to Police Officer Michael J. Diedrich. On August 6, 2015, Officer Diedrich and his partner responded to an unresponsive man inside of a vehicle in the 100 block of West Holt Avenue. Officer Diedrich's partner saw hypodermic needles in the back seat of that car, and the pair removed the man from his vehicle. Officer Diedrich retrieved his pocket mask and began CPR along with chest compressions. Narcan was administered to the man by the fire department, and the man immediately regained consciousness and was transported to a hospital for further treatment. Officer Diedrich's quick thinking, heroic actions, and determination prevented the loss of life.
The Life-Saving Award is presented to Officers Tyler J. Kirkvold and Ramon P. Lestrilla. July 24, 2015, Officers Kirkvold and Lestrilla responded to a call in the 4000 block of South 25th Street for a complaint of a man with a gun. The man, who was severely depressed, intended to take his own life. The officers located the man in the backyard, hiding in the bushes. At that moment, the man was pointing the rifle at himself and was just seconds away from pulling the trigger. The officers quickly began talking to the man, trying to de-escalate the crisis. After using active listening skills, the officers convinced the man to put his rifle down. The man was taken into custody, transported to Milwaukee County Mental Health for further treatment. The officers' quick thinking prevented that man from taking his own life.
The Valorous Conduct Citizen Award is presented to Mr. Jason D. McCoy. On May 5th, 2015, an armed robbery occurred at a business in the 5100 block of South 27th Street. Mr. McCoy witnessed two armed juveniles arguing and pointing their guns at an elderly woman. Concerned for the victim's safety, Mr. McCoy intervened by calling police. In addition, he jumped out of his vehicle and chased the two juveniles on South 27th Street. Eventually, he caught up with them and was able to detain them until officers arrived. On the scene, officers took the suspects into custody and recovered BB guns used in this incident. With his quick thinking and dedication towards helping his fellow citizen, Mr. McCoy played an instrumental part in capturing those juveniles.
On to District 7, led by Captain Jatiki Jackson. Officer Molly D. Wellman is receiving the Life-Saving Award. On July 4, 2015, Officer Wellman and her partner responded to a shooting 5200 block of North 76th Street. Officer Wellman found the shooting victim lying face down in a pool of blood. Officer Wellman carefully repositioned the victim on his back, began several rounds of chest compressions. Shortly thereafter, the subject regained consciousness and began to breathe on his own. The Milwaukee Fire Department arrived and continued medical care. The subject transported to the hospital for further treatment. Officer Wellman's quick thinking, heroic actions, and determination prevented the loss of life. Officers Matthew K. Driesen and Ronaldo Roman Jr. receiving the Life-Saving Award. On April 15, 2015, Officers Driesen and Roman were involved in a vehicle pursuit of a car taken in an armed robbery. The pursuit resulted in a 5-car crash. The driver of the fleeing vehicle was ejected from the car and was unresponsive. Officers Driesen and Roman began CPR, and after several cycles, the subject began to cough, breathe, and his pulse returned. Milwaukee Fire Department personnel took over medical treatment and transported the subject to the hospital. Officers Driesen and Roman's quick thinking, heroic actions and determination prevented the immediate loss of life.
Officer Jose M. Luna is receiving the Meritorious Service Award tonight. On February 1st, 2015, Officer Luna and his partner responded to a call in the 3900 block of North 77th Street. A woman at that house said her brother came home drunk and was in the basement refusing to turn down his music. As the officer stood in the hallway, Officer Luna heard the subject come up the stairs, into the kitchen, and arm himself with a knife. Officer Luna's partner immediately drew her pistol and told the man to drop the knife. Officer Luna took out his OC spray, an expandable baton, and when the man reappeared into the doorway, Officer Luna delivered a burst of OC to the man's eyes, causing him to drop the knife. Without further resistance, the subject was handcuffed and taken into custody. Officer Luna was able to assess the potential dangers of discharging a firearm in a confined space with multiple occupants and seek out rational, alternative actions. For the Neighborhood Task Force led by Captain Leslie Teeley, Officers John R. Shipman and Daniel J. Sutek are receiving the Meritorious Service Award tonight. On September 23, 2014, Officers Shipman and Sutek were patrolling the 4400 block of North Green Bay Avenue. A citizen approached the officers to report an armed robbery in progress at a gas station and gave a description of the suspect. Upon arrival, the officers saw two subjects on the sidewalk, and one of the subjects was robbing the victim at gunpoint. The officers began to chase the suspect on foot, and he was taken into custody a short time later. Officers Shipman and Sutek were successful in apprehending a dangerous armed felon in the act of committing a violent felony. They displayed immense courage by placing the safety of the public before their own and arresting a dangerous criminal. For the Office of Community Outreach and Education, led by Captain Peter Pierce, Officer Gregory D. Hunter is receiving the Medal of Valor Rescue Award. Officers Raymond L. Monfrey and Shane A. Pecoraro are receiving the Meritorious Service Award. And Mr. Juan R. Trevino is receiving the Valorous Conduct Citizen Award. On May 14th, 2015, while on patrol in the area of South Barclay and East Walker Streets, Officer Hunter saw a passenger train stopped on top of a steep embankment with smoke and flames billowing from the engine. Immediately fearing an explosion, Officer Hunter ran toward the train to begin evacuations. Officer Hunter encountered Mr. Trevino, a tow truck driver, who had stopped to assist in the removal of the passengers. Mr. Trevino grabbed two fire extinguishers from his truck and ran toward the train with Officer Hunter. Meanwhile, the fire was producing loud popping sounds and clouds of thick black smoke. Realizing the entire train could quickly become engulfed in flames, evacuating the passengers became the primary concern. Boarding the passengers' cars, Officer Hunter and Mr. Trevino began escorting people off the train. Meanwhile, Officers Monfrey and Pecoraro arrived on the scene and also assisted in evacuating passengers from that perilous situation. The quick action by all involved prevented a dangerous ordeal from turning deadly.
Finally, we end with the Unit Service Award and recognizing those involved with dismantling the violent crime tint crew. From District 3, Sergeant Stephen J. Brownrider, Officer Jason A. DeWitt, Officer Richard K. Litwin, Officer Michael Lopez, Officer Stephen L. Strassler, Officer Joel P. Susler, Officer Michael P. Warzenkowski. From District 5, Officer Jennifer Feather, Officer Philip J. Ferguson, Officer Eric J. Kradecki, Officer Gregory M. Cuspa, Officer Jonathan C. Newport, Officer Vincenzo Paulo, Officer Jose G. Ramirez, Officer Kurt Saltschwaddle, Officer Kurt R. Zarnek. From District 7, Sergeant Brian C. Birch. From Central Investigations Division, Sergeant Stephen Herman. From the Intelligence Fusion Center, Lieutenant Kevin Armbruster, Officer Brian P. Brusso, Officer Dean S. Newport, Crime Analyst Kyle D. McFatridge. And there are more.
From the Metropolitan Investigations Division, Detective Eric C. Donaldson. From the Narcotics Division, Detective David Lopez, Detective Vincent Lopez III, Detective Mark Wagner, Detective John Cuspa. From North Investigations Division, Captain Johnny C. Srignoli, Sergeant Wisam F. Yangnam, Detective Mark E. Harms, Detective Daniel G. Knitter, Detective Gina A. Melanchi, Detective Michael J. Slumcheski. From the Milwaukee County District Attorney's Office, Assistant District Attorney Laura A. Crivello. From the West Dallas Police Department, Detective Todd Kurtz. From Homeland Security Investigations, Special Agent Scott Engelhardt. From the Drug Enforcement Administration, Special Agent Jim Krieger.
So here's the story. In March 2015, MPD began an investigation into a series of shootings, robberies, and homicides directly associated with a local group of drug dealers. This group was labeled by investigators as the Violent Crime Tint Crew. The crew engaged in a highly organized drug trafficking operation and served clients across Milwaukee, southeast Wisconsin, and into northern Illinois. The drug dealers used stolen rental cars with tinted windows and fraudulent temporary license plates. A team of analysts, officers, investigators, and supervisors were assembled to aggressively target, arrest, and prosecute the crew. The unit interviewed dozens of victims and witnesses, completed countless hours of surveillance, conducted hazardous fieldwork, and executed over 20 search warrants. The team recovered more than 1,000 grams of heroin, cocaine, and marijuana, along with $12,000 in proceeds. 15 stolen vehicles and 12 firearms with high-capacity magazines were also seized. 15 members of the crew were taken into custody and charged with various weapons, narcotics, and violent crimes. The key arrests of these dangerous criminals led to the dismantling of the crime organization. Throughout the course of the investigation, the personnel displayed incredible levels of dedication and perseverance. The unit worked together, coordinating resources, assembling support teams, and engaging in dangerous fieldwork to capture these violent individuals. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our portion of the evening. Again, on behalf of everyone at today's TMJ4, an honor to be here with you tonight to salute not only our men and women in law enforcement, but also our friends and neighbors who also partner with law enforcement and receive these awards tonight. Again, an honor for both of us.
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, while they're taking their seats, let's give our award recipients one more round of applause. And our MCs for tonight, Vince Vitrano and Susan Kim, did an excellent job. So good, in fact, that we have some goodie bags for them. Don't laugh at the size of our little bags. Jewelry actually comes in small bags, but let me be clear, this is not jewelry. If you would show the audience one of the shirts, please. The chief doesn't like when we wear the old patch, but I don't think he minds the really, really old patch.
That's old-timey.
One of the first, these are throwback shirts, one of the first patches of the Milwaukee Police Department. We hope you enjoy it. Thank you again. Thank you. Great job. Thank you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, please don't leave tonight without stopping in the room across the hall to your left for refreshments provided by the Recreation Association of the Milwaukee Police Department. Also, feel free to take photos either on stage or at one of the memorials. There's a nice police and fire memorial just outside that door by that big old Harley-Davidson motorcycle. Walk around the building, view our historical displays, ask anyone in uniform any question about anything that's out there in the hallways, and they better get it right. I'd like to again thank the Milwaukee Police Band. The Milwaukee Police Department Honor Guard, and Miss Elizabeth Ledesma, who works out here in the Academy office, who coordinates this entire program on behalf of the Award Selection Committee. Thanks again to our MCs, dignitaries, and command staff, and our ceremony will conclude tonight with the recession of our dignitaries and command staff. Please stand. Susan, if you could start the stampede. All right, they're gone. Let's start the party. Find your friends and family.